Welcome to Division Rivals. I'm Gabe Cohan.
I'm Kenny Weber.
I'm Lucas Cicero.
And we just had another week of football. A horribly uninteresting week, if I might add. I don't know about you guys, but these games have not been the most entertaining football I've ever watched in my life.
No, it wasn't crazy. I mean, I think it's. I think the highlight of the week, I would assume for us, is all three of our teams won. So it's like when your team's winning, I feel like it's a much better week of football. But a lot of the other games, even some of the games that we thought were going to be better, like you guys tried to talk me into the Jacksonville Jaguars being a good football team, and they were not.
They weren't bad. I mean, they went toe-to-toe with the Eagles, right?
The Eagles.
Who's supposed to be like the number one power rankings team or whatever the fuck you want to call them.
Well, they are the only undefeated football team.
They are, yeah.
In football. But I will say, this last week, we did, as Kenny mentioned, all of our teams won. The Giants advanced to 3-1. The Cowboys advanced to 3-1. And unfortunately, the Cardinals won a football game.
Unfortunately. You're already trying to tank for higher pick.
We don't have enough talent. I don't know if you guys saw the whole J.J. Watt thing. He had to get his heart shot back into rhythm before the game. So J.J. Watt, keep having heart attacks. Apparently, it'll bode well for our team. Cardinals did play the Panthers this week. Did either of you guys watch that game?
I watched highlights of that game, and then I saw a news story that says that Baker Mayfield has the lowest QBR since they started measuring the statistic through the first 4 games, and the QBR is a total of 15.9.
It's a big number when you come from Oklahoma.
Which is, I mean, man, I feel like he's put in a better position to succeed here, no? What do you guys think?
Than in Cleveland?
In Cleveland, yeah.
I'd say Cleveland is a worse city. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the pieces around them. The O-line. Yeah, the O-line was better. He had a better run game with the Browns.
And Odell Beckham Jr. and Jarvis Landry and David Njoku. Yeah, he definitely had better weapons on the Browns.
You literally stated something, Lucas, and then started arguing against your own case.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to figure out because I expected him to do okay. He's doing poorly.
I expected him to do better than he's doing, and I feel like he's doing how Dwayne has always portrayed him. By the way, shout out to Dwayne. He couldn't be here tonight in the middle of he's moving his family into a new place. So instead of helping him, we are here.
What's the address on that one again, Kenny?
123 Fake Street. But instead of helping him move, we're here doing the podcast.
I love how he said moving his family. It's like you could have just said he's moving. But
hey, look, I did pray for the Giants to win. I think that's enough for Dwayne.
Really?
And Cordarrelle Patterson got hurt, so both of my prayers were answered.
Yeah.
Actually, Dwayne couldn't be with us today because he's mourning the loss of the best player in football, Cordarrelle Patterson.
Oh man, short-term IR, by the way.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how you know how long he's going to be out for.
I mean, at least 4 games.
Weeks.
That's all they know.
Yeah.
Minor procedure is what they call it. Yeah, but hey, he's still fucking tearing it up, dude. Not his knee, his field.
To finish up the Cardinals game, they unfortunately the score. The game didn't get very good until like the third quarter. Like it was like the middle of the third quarter when it was. I think you still.
I'm gonna zag from you right there. It never got good.
I mean, I'm gonna. For me, the highlight of the game, that beautiful end zone throw to Marquise Brown, just right in the basket, right in the corner. That was, you can't watch that and not get excited.
Yeah, they call him Hollywood because he always shows up randomly in North Carolina. So beats me. Yeah, the Cardinals won. Yay. Moving on. We have the actual best player in football, and that'd be Cooper Rush. The Cowboys beat the Washington Commanders again this week. Cooper Rush still undefeated as a quarterback. It is brewing a nice little QB controversy down there in Dallas. Does Dak get his starting job back? I think we all agree the answer is yes. However, Cooper Rush looked really good. Again, another week.
Yeah, Cooper Rush looks great. People are crazy about this quarterback controversy. Dak's going to come back. Dak's going to play. If he plays poorly for multiple games, yeah, I think there's obviously going to be talk about especially if he's still undefeated. You know, if we go beat the Rams, but even going and beating the Rams this week isn't as big of a task as it seemed that it would have been at the beginning of the season, what we thought the Rams were going to be. So this is a winnable game. This is definitely a winnable game for the Cowboys because the Rams aren't that good. I just don't think I don't think the controversy is going to brew until Dak comes back and plays poorly with Michael Gallup back, with these receivers playing in games more and just gelling with the offense. I know not gelling with Dak, but I mean, I think most of us would argue that Dak's a better athlete than Cooper Rush.
Sure.
A better pedigree at this point than Cooper Rush. It's just because you're undefeated after 4 games. You know what I mean? And Cooper Rush is he plays well, but he's not. It's not spectacular. Like if he was slinging the ball around, then yeah, if we were talking like 350, 400-yard games with 3, 4, 5 touchdowns, then of course we're talking.
I know one thing he's slinging around down there in the Big D.
Yeah, like he's playing very, very well for a backup, and he's probably earning himself a starting job possibly next year,
possibly
somewhere like Carolina. Like I'd be surprised. I mean, at this point, I'd be surprised if he's not starting somewhere next year.
People were saying that about Tyler Huntley last year, the backup quarterback for the Ravens, but I mean, still a backup quarterback for the Ravens.
Right.
So you never know.
Which you could argue is a better gig than, playing in Carolina.
Definitely.
So yeah.
Yeah. It's funny, Kenny, the way you said it, it's almost like you expect Dak to come back and not be good with all the weapons. Is that what you're expecting?
I am honestly. This is a situation where I truly throw my hands up, and I just don't know. Dak is somebody who's always risen to the occasion, unless that occasion comes to being in the playoffs. But he's risen to that occasion, so I kind of think he comes back and plays well. But also he didn't look good in that first game, and he goes through patches throughout his career of not looking great. And so it's I'm not if he comes back and doesn't play well for 3 games, I'm not going to be surprised. It's not, you know what I mean?
It's like that dude that slacks off at work, and then when it's time for the reviews come up, like, all right, I'm gonna get my shit together. Yeah.
The real question to me, do you guys think Mike McCarthy is a good coach at this point?
Fuck no.
No.
Okay.
I think
No.
that that's why I said before I'd rather get rid of Mike McCarthy than any player on the team. Saying that's we need to move on from Zeke, or need to move on from CeeDee Lamb, or need to move on from Dak. You know what I mean? As far as them being the guy at their position, I'd rather get rid of Mike McCarthy.
I'll give you Cliff Kingsbury in a heartbeat.
No.
Okay, fine.
I think they made it very clear. I've touched on this in previous episodes. There's a succession plan in Dallas. They extended Dan Quinn just in case there's a midseason firing. He's going to be the interim head coach. If Mike McCarthy gets fired, he'll probably be the first to interview. That's just the way I see it.
This just in. Lucas Cicero is smoking crack yet again. We've talked about this before. Dan Quinn is not going to be the head coach. It's he went and became a head coach, failed at being a head coach, and now he's back to DC. I don't think he's going to bounce back. I don't look how long it took other coaches to look like
Brian Flores as an example, Matt Patricia as another example.
McDaniels,
even Todd Bowles.
28-3. It was terrible. There's no denying that. But he made it to the Super Bowl, so you can't necessarily say he failed as a coach if he made it to the Super Bowl.
Kyle Shanahan, offensive coordinator.
He's not playing for succession in Dallas. I'm not even saying Dan Quinn will not be a head coach again in the league. He's not someone you play for that type of succession somewhere with a coach who's never been a head coach, like a young coach, like what the Cowboys did for Jason Garrett. That's where you play into succession. You don't bring somebody who just failed as a head coach. He has one good season, and you're like, all right, we're grooming you to be our next head coach in case this fuckface doesn't make it. It's just that's just not how that's just not happening. I don't think there's any. I think there's zero validity.
We'll see. I would love to see it happen.
I think he'll Jerry Jones is going to pull the proper HBO succession, name himself as head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
It just doesn't even. It wouldn't even. That doesn't even make me feel good. It's let him focus on what he's doing. What do I want to do? I was you're doing so good with the defense. Let's give you the whole team.
That's typically how it works out.
Not succession though. It works out for a new team because a new team says you did really good with that defense. Maybe you could do that with a whole team. But if you're already at at that team. I don't see it happening.
Also, there were not a lot of defensive coordinators up for head coaching jobs this past year. I don't know if you Mike McDaniel,
mainly
OC,
offensive guys.
Exactly. So I do think the trend of defensive coordinators being named head coaches is kind of fading out. And speaking of defensive coordinators, offensive coordinators, the Giants hired a great offensive coordinator in Brian Daboll, leading them to a 3-1 record against absolutely god-awful teams.
Yeah.
God, that game looked bad too, dude.
It did. It was a ugly win. You know, I know you've said all our wins have been ugly. This might have been one of the uglier ones, even though we had the biggest margin of victory. And we basically ran a college-style option offense. That's, if you want to, we didn't really do the option, but we basically ran a college-style run-the-ball offense. Which is ironic because, you know, if we were going to do that, Tyrod Taylor should have started. Of course, that started a big shitstorm. And Daniel Jones did play really well, especially with his feet. But if you're going to do that type of offense, then yeah, like Tyrod Taylor is your guy for that, unless he comes in for 2 series and gets knocked out the concussion. But hey, that happens.
College style sounds exactly what Brian Daboll's diet is. Just give me everything college style. Yeah, Tyrod Taylor 100% did get hurt in that game. You know, Jones got hurt, ends up coming back. There was a play or two where the Giants were in a wildcat, if I'm not mistaken, with
right.
Saquon at quarterback.
And this is how atrocious the Bears are. I'm sorry. It was so obvious that he came back. He was hobbling. He wasn't going to throw the ball. He lined up at receiver. We did a wildcat type of play where there's 2 options, either Saquon or Matt Breida is going to run it, and Matt Breida still broke off a 10-yard run. Like, the fact that they couldn't stop that just says all you need to know about the Chicago Bears.
Begging the question, is it time for Saquon Barkley to rightfully claim his seat as quarterback of the New York Football Giants?
He's the best quarterback on the team.
Yeah, I mean, he is our offense. If it wasn't for Patrick Mahomes being so godly talented, he would be MVP candidate number 1 right now.
That's where we should have the real succession, is when it comes to quarterbacks for the New York Football Giants.
Another hot take. You're saying that Saquon Barkley is the second in line right now for MVP of the league?
Absolutely. If you look at what he means to his team.
Well, yeah, but that's just not how.
It's most valuable player. Like, you look at how valuable he is to the Giants, how valuable Mahomes is to the Chiefs.
Right. But do you think that's truly who's second in line? Like that? Do you think that that's what?
I think so. I mean, I know he got a lot of carries and he did a lot with them, but he's an electric player again. He's, you know.
I'm just pointing out that he's probably not second in line for MVP.
Who would you put in line for second?
There are at least 3 to 18 other players I'd put. Every other
give me
quarterback
3 others.
Of a winning record team.
Give me 3 others.
That's a lot. Every starting quarterback with a team with a winning record. So we have Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers.
I don't know about Aaron Rodgers. He hasn't
Allen.
played at an MVP level.
I'm just telling you how it's going to go in the NFL. Quarterbacks win the MVP
So right
award.
now, top 3: Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Tua.
No, Jalen Hurts is probably number 2.
My bad. So top 4. Tua would be down there.
Yep.
Next, obviously with the injury, it's a little bit of a story. We'll get to that in a little bit.
Yep.
But for sure, yeah. Saquon is not even. Is Saquon the MVP at running back so far in this season?
I think so. I mean, you look at who has performed that well every game. Okay. Obviously, I'm biased. Has any running back performed that well in every game so far?
Saquon had 1 bad game this season so far through 4. Right, he did.
Right.
Week 2. So I don't know. I mean, you can keep making claims about Saquon Barkley, but truth be told, he hasn't been healthy for a full season in a while. Mm-hmm. I'd say let it play out. Let's not anoint him anything. Let's just let Jesus sit and rest for a little bit, take his day off, let him get his day of rest, and then we'll re-anoint him as one of the next coming running back stars in football, which he already is, once he continues to do it for a full season. But until then, let's pump the brakes.
Fair.
Another young running back star who was potentially on the verge of a breakout season and instead ruptured both his LCL and ACL is Javonte Williams. In the battle of the law of averages, Raiders-Broncos, the Raiders eked out the first win of the season.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think I told you guys, I think the Raiders can get it together and come back. They're on their way. And next week, which we'll get to later, they have the biggest task, that like a true test to see how back they really are. They play the Chiefs. So I like the win. It sucks that Javonte Williams, is losing the rest of the season, but they have another starting caliber running back in Melvin Gordon, who just so happens to be fumbling every game. Crazy. 4 games, 4 fumbles, if I'm not mistaken.
It's a great stretch for Melvin as he continues to be the bell cow of Wisconsin running backs, him and Jonathan Taylor. I will say, Raiders didn't look good in the win. The one thing that they did change up is they threw the ball to Davante Adams, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, they got him heavily involved in the game plan. They ran like some jet sweeps with him. It definitely, because this is one of the first Raiders games I actually like really tuned into a little bit more and was watching, and so it was like I literally had thought to talk about them use, and I was like, have they been trying to use him this much? And they just haven't been getting the ball, but it seemed like they were force feeding him the ball.
Him and Josh Jacobs, I think, ran for 144, 2 touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, they force fed the fuck out of him.
Josh Jacobs, Jingleheimer Smith, his name is my name too. Not to take us too far back, but just so you know, Nick Chubb is the best running back in the NFL so far this season. Saquon's number 2, though.
That's fair.
You mean in terms of yards?
In terms of everything. The only thing Saquon has is more receiving yards.
Yeah.
But he's doing better on receptions. But Nick Chubb has 459. Or no, I'm sorry, I misspoke. Saquon has 463 yards. Nick Chubb has 459. But Nick Chubb has 5 touchdowns. Saquon has 2.
Yeah, but I would say the yards are a little more valuable than the touchdowns.
Yeah, the 4 yards.
The 4 yards are more valuable than the 3 touchdowns.
Well, I mean, the touchdowns, they could be just goal line 1-yard touchdowns.
The yards are yards. They're almost they basically have identical yards.
Yeah.
It's a 4-yard difference, so it's not even enough to. It's not enough to.
Hey, I mean,
Okay,
we'll see what happens when the season ends. Yeah.
No, like literally, he couldn't even be the top candidate of run. You'd have to make
a case for someone else.
A case for Nick Chubb to be the MVP over him with more like touchdowns for running backs and wide receivers. Touchdowns are way more important.
Yeah, and even then, I'd make the argument Micah Parsons is right up there in the MVP conversation. If you're going to say it's the most valuable player to a team, Micah Parsons is clearly the most valuable player to the Dallas Cowboys, who are 3-1 and beat the Giants. So. Anyway, I didn't know. Saquon, sorry, Saquon, you are not an MVP candidate. Hate to break it to you, buddy. I know we're really close and all.
He's only going to answer Lucas's text because Lucas told him he's an MVP candidate.
Yeah,
My bad to take us back, but I ended up. I had to look it up and see what it was, so I took us backwards. But
that's fine. Going backwards, just like the Broncos on every single drive. So
Russell Wilson, man,
let's ride.
I think we're. I mean, first season with a new team like this, I still think it can have those ups and downs, and like maybe he can figure it out this season, or it might be like kind of a wash of a season and figure it out, next season. But I mean, Dwayne was thrown in the group chat like he was like, I think he thinks Russell Wilson's might be washed, just done. What do you guys think?
The name Russell with a last name starting with the letter W, once you hit 30s, you're over. Just quit sports. You just have to. It's
Are you referring to Russell Westbrook?
Maybe. I could be quite coyly. But, yeah, no, he does look awful. Full stop. They had the skill players. They made a big trade. This brings us to another game we're going to talk about, which are the Seahawks and Lions. But a great question posed on the Bill Simmons podcast this week. If you just looked at 2 stat lines, right, Geno Smith's stat line versus Russell Wilson's stat line, and you told me someone gave a bunch of picks up for one of the players versus the other player, you'd think we're talking about Geno Smith, who you traded a bunch of first-round draft capital for. Russell Wilson's like absolutely horrible.
It's funny. They actually got Drew Bach instead of him.
Yeah,
Drew Bach.
The local bartender.
Shout out to Drew Bach.
I like how you didn't even call him a comic. You called him a local bartender.
Our local bartender, a saloon attendee. He makes me chuckle. No, one of all of our very good friends.
Our
Drew
servant.
Bach. Very funny. Very funny.
Our drink servant,
So,
Drew Bach.
He also plays jazz, for those of you who
he doesn't
like
know shit about
jazz.
football.
Yeah.
He'll never
You
He'll
also
surprise
have to-
you. He knew who Josh Cribbs was. We were talking to the bar. He just pulled out Josh. He's like, I met Josh Cribbs a few years ago. I was like, damn, Drew.
I wonder if you watch the league, though.
No chance. No.
You'd be surprised at some comics that have seen the league that don't. But that's another. We got to do something with that in the offseason.
Yeah, I don't think Russell Wilson's washed. I think it comes down to coaching. You said it perfectly, right? Because you've got Pete Carroll on one side, and then you've got Nathaniel Hackett, first-time head coach. Russell Wilson, brand new team. It's going to take a while. I think he still has it in the tank. Like I mentioned before, he's still got, those shifty moves to escape pressure, and that's where he, makes all the good throws. You extend the play, you fucking get it to a wide open guy.
So, hypothetically speaking, you trade a bunch of first-round draft picks to bring a quarterback into your building, and then you give him a $250 million extension.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to give him some due say on the plays that you're calling?
Yeah, I would.
Do you think they are? I'm asking this guy. I don't even know.
I really don't know. From what I've heard, he's just a little bit harder to coach. He's got, a lot of guys to do different things from. He's
what do you mean, like personally?
Yeah. I guess he's.
You can just call him Christian. It's fine.
No. He's got like a lot of assistants. This is what I hear. I mean,
Jesus, number one assistant.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, I do think I'm very curious why you don't think he's washed. In my mind, as soon as Peyton Manning walked into the building in the Broncos back in 2011, I want to say 2012, right? He came in there and lit the world on fire, set records for touchdown passes in a season, called the majority of the plays, and they let him have full control. I think Nathaniel Hackett did the same thing with Russell Wilson. Just speculative, no further info. But they look really bad at football. They do not look like a good football team. The only bright spot that they had was Javonte Williams running through the heart of the line, and that was gorgeous. But Jerry Jeudy's looked good. Cortland Sutton's looked fantastic. Russell Wilson can't get them the ball.
I mean, the O-line doesn't look good. Let's start with that, right? I mean, you need a good O-line. Even the most elusive quarterbacks like him, they still need time to throw. So,
it's so hard for me when he has two of the best receivers in the league. Like they're not two of the best receivers in the league. If that makes sense. As far as like, there's a lot of receivers ahead of them, but as a tandem, they're one of the best tandems for sure.
Yeah, both very talented.
The
big thing, truthfully, is Russell Wilson at his apex. It didn't matter what line you gave him. He would make something out of nothing. He's a magic man, right? He plays backyard football in the same way Kyler Murray does for the Arizona Cardinals right now. The best plays for him are when you just let him cook. And Russ has lost that ability completely.
I think they're not letting him cook.
They're letting him call the freaking plays.
Do you know that for sure? Or you're just speculating.
Yeah, I am just speculating.
Okay, yeah.
But come on. I mean, you gave him $250 million. You're going to let him have some say on the plays that go in the playbook.
Who knows? I mean, Hackett could be, that type of guy. Oh, it's my town here,
As a first-year rookie coach, I think you somewhat default to your star quarterback. But he is not a star anymore. Someone who is a rising star in my mind, Jared Goff. As Randy Newman's saying, I love Jared Goff. Jared Goff lost again, but he at least pulled a game close for the Lions, who are perpetually within 3 points in every single loss.
And they look kind of fucking good
they look offensively.
They have really good bursts of football.
Yeah, and Noah Monroe St. Brown this week, and they still put up 45. I really like the Lions. They're a lot of fun to watch. Dan Campbell, best coach in the league? Just kidding. Probably not. Do you think he's the thickest?
Biggest heart coach in the
thickest?
Yeah.
Just broad.
He's got a dad energy to him that's pretty cool.
He reminds me of just an unsuccessful version of Vrabel.
Interesting.
Like the same type of energy as a coach, where they have like a lot of passion, and it's like he has a little bit more passion, like emotionally, that he shows for football, but it's like he just doesn't have the success. Like it's like I want them to win. You know what I mean? It's like you know how you kind of weren't really. You know you're rooting for the Browns as long as Baker's not on them?
It's so true. They are the feel-good team. Like, you root for them because no matter what, your team's going to beat them as soon as they walk into that building.
Yeah, but you want them to beat, any other team.
Exactly.
You're like, come on, let the Lions
You guys
win.
are so close.
They've got heart. And I wouldn't call him unsuccessful because he really had to start from the bottom. They went 2-14, and then they were a scrappy team.
But that's
Yeah, but they started there. I mean, they started with very little talent, ton of rookies, and now they're starting to put it together.
Yeah, but when they give the keys to any coach in the NFL, I don't care if the year after they went 0-16, when they gave the keys to the next coach, they weren't like, look, man, just go out there and win 2-3 games. And that's going to be good enough for us because we're starting at the bottom. Like, no, every time it's we're going to go out there and we're going to win the Super Bowl this year. You know what I mean? Now, you should obviously how attainable that is, but that's still what you're putting out there for your team and your coaches and shit. So he's just not. Unfortunately, I like the guy, but he's not successful. We can't say he's.
I think it's too early to say whether he is or isn't successful because he is showing progression as a team. Like, the team is playing better. You know they're not a Super Bowl team. They're a rebuilding team, and it takes time to rebuild. When you're rebuilding, if you know you're not going to win the Super Bowl, what's the difference between winning 2 and 8 games? You just get a share of your pick.
Draft capital. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Which, by the way, when you speaking of trades, you look at the trade between Jared Goff, Matt Stafford. Right now, the Lions are getting the better end of that trade. He's putting up numbers.
So it was always a win for the Rams because as soon as they made the trade, they went out and won the Super Bowl.
Right, but I'm saying this year.
Yeah, but I'm not going to relitigate it. The Rams won the trade. They won the
did,
Super Bowl.
yeah.
Yeah, we can't. I mean, they still have that trophy. They still have the trophy.
Yeah,
of
the
course.
trophy's still hot. You're not even allowed to touch it because it's still hot because of how close it's been since they won that Super Bowl. Like, it's not. Yeah, the Rams still. They got the better of it.
Good timing. The Rams did win the Super Bowl, and they dropped Week 1 to this next team that we're talking about, the Buffalo Bills, who pulled out a 23-20 win over the Baltimore Ravens in what looked like one of the sloppiest games of the Sunday slate, trailing only the Eagles and the Jags. Hurricane Ian effects, I think. Regardless, 2-star quarterbacks, neither of them look like stars in that game. What do you think it comes down to win a game like that and eke it out in the fourth quarter like the Bills did?
Have Josh Allen on your team.
Or defense, defense wins championships. You had late pick in the end zone, and then they drove down. Yeah, I mean, it helps to have a Josh Allen, but it also helps to be the last one to get the ball.
Harbaugh makes that call like last season, and they win a game, and he just talks about how I have belief in my quarterback and whatnot, and then he makes the call in this game, and everybody's like saying he's an idiot and calling for his job. It's like those plays, those calls where you're going for it, where you're putting it in Lamar's hand, something like that. Like, those are always like in the NFL. If it's about probability and statistics and like what to do in situations and how often that actually converts, they're low conversions, but they convert them at a much higher rate. So you're gonna miss sometimes, and that just is what it is. And that's won them games in the past, and it lost them a game this time.
The Ravens are now 2-2. Are you guys at all worried about their playoff chances?
Absolutely not, because they're in a fairly weak division. I mean, the Browns, they're going to continue winning games, but the Steelers, they finally moved on to their rookie quarterback, and so very winnable games there.
I'm more about them if they're going to be elite or not. Like, they're not. They're definitely not going to be. I don't think they're going to be elite. They're
teetering.
They're one of those. They're like the Ravens, basically. They are doing what the Ravens do, which reminds me of the Tony Romo Cowboys. All those years.
With Lamar Jackson's skill set, if they make the playoffs, do you guys think they have a chance to make the Super Bowl?
No, the AFC is too stacked, I think, and I think those other teams are better than that. Like, I think those other teams are better. Even the Bills, who they just played, I still think if they play 10 times, the Bills beat them worse every other time.
I would have to see a lot of improvement in their offense because they're a good team right now. They're very talented, but if they get into a shootout, they're not really built for it. They're built to run the ball and kind of, dictate the flow of the offense their way. But, they don't really have like the play, or maybe they do. I don't know. Maybe they'll get there. But right now, if they're going to get into a shootout with the Chiefs, I'd take the Chiefs. You know what I mean?
So I don't even think they're a good team. I think Lamar Jackson is a great player, and they have a chance in all the games because of that.
Yeah.
What do you think?
No, Lamar Jackson's going to become the highest paid quarterback at the end of the season if the Ravens give him a contract extension. I don't think that's up for debate. He's absolutely phenomenal. J.K. Dobbins this week, 2 rushing touchdowns. They were running the football. You had to run the football. The elements were bad. I'm a little bit worried about Rashad Bateman. Hasn't really shown out these last 2 weeks. People are starting to play him tighter, and Mark Andrews didn't really do much this week. Devin Duvernay seems to be the brightest spot on the receiving core. I'm not worried about the Ravens. They're going to make the playoffs. The real question to me is, are they contenders? And I think Lamar Jackson is enough of a wild card that depending on who they go up against when the playoff slate hits, they could make the Super Bowl.
I think so, too. I would never rule it out. Again, it's going to come down to how much they improve during the season.
I mean, the way the sport's designed, anybody can make the Super Bowl. I understand that, but I'm not. No, they're not. They're not. I'm not. Other than being like literally than saying the phrase "any given Sunday." You heard it here first. Baltimore Ravens not going to the Super Bowl.
I wake up every morning and whisper that in my own ear.
You stand over yourself before you wake up.
I cup my hands like this and I go, "any given Sunday." And so far, it has not been any good Sundays, especially when it comes to fantasy football. I don't know about you guys, but this season has been quite raucous for my fantasy teams. Let's go fantasy takeaways. Kenny, off the top.
Okay, we've had 4 weeks. That means we have a good amount of data. We have a quarter of the data for the season. Get out there and trade. Make your team better through trades. Use names. Use players that have had maybe they had a big week and they have some of a name. Use those names to go get players that are actually putting up stats that are improve your team through trade. That's my takeaway or / advice is that this is the time to get out there and put those trades out.
You spend a lot of time on Silk Road.
I spend a lot of time trying to acquire draft picks in all my dynasty leagues is what I do, we have this. I have this new league Dwayne and I are playing in. That's an IDP league, and this is the only league that I play in that doesn't have King in it.
Yeah,
and so we've had one trade, and then people send me trades, and I always send them something back trying to acquire some draft picks, and I give them fair trades, but I'm basically saying no, I don't want if you were trying to get shit for me, I need to start building these draft picks for future seasons, but nobody wants to because I don't think they understand dynasty enough to do it. But it's trade season. Now's the time.
The thing that annoyed me the most about King is we'd make a trade and then he'd instantly complain and be like, "I want my player back. We made the trade. It's fine."
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, my favorite thing is when we deny trades and then was it our league that he said, "Thank you guys for protecting me against myself."
Yeah.
Because we nobody would trade with him after a while, and then those players did well 1 week. He's very.
Regardless,
theatrical.
Thank you, King, for giving me Lamar Jackson. Lucas, fantasy takeaway. For
fantasy
week 4.
takeaways. Man, some blue chip players are worth either acquiring or holding on to, like Cooper Kupp. There's some blue chip players that haven't lived up to the hype at all, like a Jonathan Taylor, and I wouldn't write them off just yet. I'd preach patience for players like that. Same with someone like a George Kittle. It's a long season. I mean, I know it's shorter than the actual NFL season. You're typically looking at 13 to 15 weeks, depending on whether you make the playoffs or not. But don't write off players like that, because I have a guy in one of my leagues. He's 0-4, and he has Jonathan Taylor. He took him first overall. And he's thinking about trading him. And you know what? I get it. He needs a guy like me. He wants Dameon Pierce from me. And see, that's a good idea. He said, buy low, sell high. He just had a great game. I'd be selling really high right now. Would you trade if it was straight up or maybe add a little sweetener? Would you trade not 9 dynasty redraft league? Would you trade Dameon Pierce for Jonathan Taylor?
Who do I have?
If you're 0-4, you have Jonathan Taylor. I have Dameon Pierce.
You are 0-4?
Yeah, you're 0-4, and you have Jonathan Taylor. I have Dameon Pierce. Let's say I throw in like a wide receiver too.
It's Jonathan Taylor,
uh-huh.
who again was the first overall pick. I'm only selling him if I can get multiple assets.
Okay,
there's no straight unless you're going to be somebody's like, Jonathan, I'll give you Cooper Kupp for Jonathan Taylor, of course, then I'll take that. But besides something like that, I'm taking like 2 for ones.
Let's say I give you Dameon Pierce and Terry McLaurin.
And Dan Snyder. You have to take Dan Snyder.
You have to.
Well, I'm in if I can get Dan Snyder.
Yeah.
Oh man!
I heard he's gonna.
without his boat. Though,
he's gonna bring. No, he's gonna bring cheerleaders in his boat. And then I'm just gonna force those cheerleaders to clean my house. I'm gonna force them to clean. That's what I'm gonna do with them.
Hell yeah, breaking down gender roles. That's what we like to see.
Human trafficking. All right.
Hey, way better than. I'm not gonna.
Would
even
you take that trade though? Like Terry McLaurin or some like comparable wide receiver too, like that. Dameon Pierce for Jonathan Taylor. You're 0-4.
I still think I'd have to figure out a better trade than
You
that.
hold on strong. Okay.
It's not even that I want to hold on strong. I'm gonna shop Jonathan Taylor around and get more for him than that.
Yeah.
I don't think that's enough, even because for me to even though I don't value him super highly, like I don't like insanely high in a redraft league, right? If I have him, I'm still gonna value him higher than I value him if I don't have him. If that makes any sense, right? So I'm gonna be wanting more. I still want more. I want one like guaranteed piece, right?
Sure.
Like somebody yeah. I wouldn't be that trade, but I'd still be trying to shop him, of course.
Yeah.
It's more than likely it would be a multiple person trade on both sides of it. Those that I find to be the best trades when it's like 3 players from one person, 5 players from another, something like that. You know what I mean? 4 and 3, like 4 and 3. That's where I feel like you can really start to move around value because it has to do with team needs. And different, so it's like, oh, if my receivers are strong, and then I have this other receiver I can throw in who's also strong, you know what I mean? But on my team, I have weaker receivers, then I can't even throw in that receiver. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I love 3-way trades. They rarely happen. When they do, it's so fucking theatrical and magical.
Yeah.
Well, what are your takeaways?
Spit roasting fantasy football, always a good time. This was the week of the RB2. We had Josh Jacobs go off, Rashad Penny go off, Dameon Pierce went off. Most of the guys that you were drafting looking to be your RB2s this week, they put up 100+ with multiple touchdowns. So
Hold on. You said something. This isn't me selling, by the way. I think there's a legitimate argument here. You don't think Dameon Pierce is RB1?
he was drafted as an RB2.
He was drafted as a. Are you elevating him to the RB1 status?
Currently, after having one good week, well,
Two.
great week, one good week, maybe. I don't know.
He's got the carries to back it up.
Yeah, here's the thing. There's been a lot of volatility on the running back side in fantasy football this year. Am I really going to bump Dameon Pierce up a caliber to say, oh, he's one of the top 10 running backs? He could be week in, week out. I want to see it 2 more weeks, and then we can have that serious conversation. I'm similar to Kenny. Like, Jonathan Taylor is still on a different level than Dameon Pierce. I know he sucked to start the season, but if Jonathan Taylor can get the ball rolling, everything clicking together, he's in a much better position overall.
Yeah, I mean, look at
Dameon Pierce
Derrick Henry. Off to a slow start, now he's fucking, back to being king.
Two games real slow. But the big thing to me that jumps off, if you guys are watching the games, the level of physicality has definitely caught up to players, right? Week 1, week 2, everyone's moving a little bit faster. Everyone's hitting a little bit harder. Running games don't really get going as frequently. Then you hit week 3, week 4, week 5, and from there on, you have big bruisers that are running into guys who are slightly hurt continually. And that's exactly where Derrick Henry comes into play, right? These are the guys that are going to run into the line, 30 times in a game, and they're going to bust 1 or 2 of them and really show up. And that's what we saw this week.
And it's getting colder.
Yeah.
Yo, those bruising backs, week 1 of the playoffs, it's fucking, like those games where you can see this fucking breath come out. Oh, man.
Yeah,
you
nothing
see the
like
goosebumps on their fucking
watching men breathe and with massive arms.
Massive arms, yeah.
Ugh, so
homoerotic football.
Yeah.
Can you guys tell I went to go see Bros this weekend?
Did you?
I really
Someone
did.
likes
Great movie.
Is it good? It's good.
Yeah. Horrible marketing, but great movie. Yeah.
It's fun. Oh, it's a Judd Apatow movie, right?
Yeah, it is.
So it is.
Judd Apatow,
So it is funny.
Billy Eichner.
Fuck yeah.
Go see it if you like this podcast. Or if you like really strong men.
With goosebumps.
That breathe breath good. Bringing us to week 5 and breathing breath good, we got Ravens-Bengals kicking us off. The Bengals very much so have received a breath of fresh air after shutting off 0-2, have turned it around 2-0 these last 2 weeks, including a win over the Dolphins.
Do you know they beat the Dolphins, who had Tua fucking hurt, and then do you remember who they beat by chance? I'll look it up real quick because
who was their first win?
Yeah,
they dropped game 1 to the Steelers, dropped game 2 to the Cowboys. Game 3, they beat a team. And then game 4, they beat the Dolphins.
Yeah. Which, of course they help not having two in the game. But, Brisket came back in and he played okay. He still got the offense
okay,
rolling.
but he's no Tua.
He's no Tua.
It was
which is funny that we're saying that because, a year ago, everyone's kind of shitting on Tua. Like, oh, fucking Tua. The guy
if you roll the tape back, I wasn't. I wasn't high on Tua, but I was not. I was definitely I would say we needed more. We needed more of a sample size. They beat the Jets in week 3, which brought me to my point. I thought this, but I had to verify. They beat again. Once they didn't. The game was close. Tua goes out. The game then from there was a pretty simple game for the Bengals to win. They beat the Jets, who are a shit team, and then they lost to the Cowboys and
Steelers week 1, but that's the Steelers with a healthy TJ Watt, which is a very different Steelers team.
We should add that there was a ton of missed field goals that game.
But what I'm getting at is the I don't know. I think the basically my pick is the Bengals are going to lose this game. I think the Ravens are going to bounce back from that close game last week. While we were talking about it, I think the Ravens are a pretty good team, and I think that the Bengals are I think the Bengals are an okay team. They're a fucking 500 team.
Do you think the Bengals offensive line is going to get better over the course of this season? I mean, they clearly invested heavy in it. Okay.
I don't.
Well,
I think that
I'm going to say yes because there's no way they're going to continue winning if they keep playing like this.
Well, if they could play bad teams every week, I think that they would continue to win. I think they're at 8-8 team. If they play a bad team, they beat them. If they play a good team, they lose to them. It's like I've watched the Cowboys do that for years.
Are they going to be a playoff team?
No, the division's weak. I take that back. I wouldn't be.
Is it weak? Do you think they're better than the Browns? I don't know if they're better than the Browns.
I think they're better than the Browns.
I think you're thinking of them going to the Super Bowl last year. And that's why you're saying that. If you just take this season, I don't. That's hard.
The Browns are one of the 3 teams prior to TJ Watt's injury. 4 teams that has a guy on the defensive line that'll be in the backfield every single play. Right? Rams, Aaron Donald, Cowboys, Michael Parsons, Browns, Myles Garrett, TJ Watt on the Steelers. That to me is the biggest thing when it comes to Bengals Browns. Is the Browns have one of those game breakers on defense, on top of Denzel Ward, on top of having what looks like an eerily competent offense. I think the Browns are a little bit better than the Bengals this year.
Yeah, but the thing is, how many wins can they get before Deshaun comes in? Because if they get 6 wins,
I don't even think that Gabe's saying that he's saying they're better even without Deshaun.
Correct.
And then you bring Deshaun in, and then they probably elevate to being much better than the Bengals.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. You need to win a certain amount of games before Deshaun comes in for you to have a chance at the playoffs.
And what's the Browns' record right now?
They're 2-2,
just like
the Bengals.
That's what I'm saying.
If you get 3 more wins, I'd say you have a good chance.
It depends on what are the Ravens? They're 2-2.
2-2.
What are the Pittsburgh Steelers right now?
1-3.
Yeah, so Steelers out of it.
Yeah,
they're going to start their rookie quarterback who's throwing picks. And then you have these other if the Ravens can't rattle if these other teams have to rattle off wins and they're just not.
So you don't think Kenny Pickett's going to come in and just light it up and get them to the playoffs?
No, everyone was yelling Kenny Pickett, and then the defense listened.
Yeah. By the way, if they were going to do this, Steelers, why are you wasting your fucking time with Mitch Trubisky?
Well, because coaching staffs want to have jobs next year.
Yeah.
So they were hoping that Mitch was going to go in there and play a little bit more competent football and win games. But
also, clearly, Kenny Pickett is not ready to start in the NFL. He threw 3 picks. Game 1, he had 2 rushing touchdowns, both goal line rushes. He did not look good.
I'm not saying he looked good. I'm just saying if you were going to make this change, why not just get him the experience early on?
And
they didn't do great with Mitch Trubisky. They went 1-3.
Kenny, correct me if I'm wrong, but what you're saying is their hand was forced to put Kenny Pickett in the game because of how bad Mitch Trubisky was.
Yeah. Like
That's it.
That's why he's even in the game now. Mitch Trubisky is just like, because you literally have no future with Mitch Trubisky, and you thought that you might have some, kind of like Mariota. They were hoping to basically get out of. I mean, obviously they're hoping to get a fucking star quarterback, but what would be a realistic expectation is kind of what Mariota's doing with the Falcons.
Yeah, right, which is just the stopgap to allow Desmond Ridder time to figure out what it's like to be in the NFL. Circling back to the team that we were talking about on the Bengals versus Browns, I do want to add this last point, which is if the Bengals put it together, they're a much better team than the Browns are. They just are. Joe Burrow's an elite quarterback. He is. Having an elite quarterback is the best thing you can have in the NFL. They don't look like they've put it together yet, and that's really where I think the Browns kind of have. They at least know their identity. The Browns do. What's the Bengals' identity?
The Bengals' identity is hope to God that offensive line can block, and if they do, they're going to win. I mean, that's how they made it to the Super Bowl. They somehow barely got just enough time for Burrow to throw, and they somehow made it to the Super Bowl because of that.
So, Kenny, I know
By the way, Mixon's not looking very good. That is contributing to, their kind of decline in play this year, no?
Oh, I definitely agreed. But, yeah, I know, Kenny, you picked the Ravens for this game. Lucas?
I've got the Ravens. Their defense.
After all that pro Bengals.
Well, okay, you got to take the teams for where they are right now. I would love to pick the Bengals, but their offensive line is not there. Like, they're barely doing enough to, beat the Dolphins without Tua, so don't really feel very confident against one of the best defenses in the NFL.
Yeah, Ravens haven't looked that great on defense. They were the team that let Tua Tagovailoa tag them up for 41, right, and beat them. I do think the Ravens win this game. I think they have been helped a little bit by the elements against the Bills. I don't know. I'm not really bullish on the Ravens, but I still think they're the best team in the AFC North.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. Like,
yeah.
I do too.
As far as what we were just talking, that's why I was saying I don't know if the Bengals can, or like if the Bengals are going to make it. If they're going to be I think they're going to be more like 500.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think the Ravens, even though I'm not high on the Ravens, I think it's not. I don't think it's as an elite of a division as it once was.
So we all agree the Bengals would be a wild card team. There's 3 wild card spots now, right?
Yep, 3.
So.
They're still right there.
Yeah, they've still.
One team I am bullish on, and I think all of us are the Kansas City Chiefs. They've looked phenomenal. They have one bad loss to a bad Colts team who we watch week in, week out suck. A lot of that comes down to missed field goals, missed opportunities, Eric Bieniemy not liking Patrick Mahomes. This week, they do play the Las Vegas Raiders, who recently won their first football game with Davante Adams and Josh McDaniels as head coach. An interesting matchup. Derek Carr looking less than average this year. How do you guys think the Raiders game plan this? Do they continue to funnel the ball to Davante Adams, or do you think once Hunter Renfrow comes back, Derek Carr tries to throw it to his favorite targets again?
Is he coming back this week?
This week or next, regardless.
I mean, I think you won a game. You should force feed it to Davante, have a run it with Josh Jacobs, Jingleheimer Smith. That's going to be your game plan, but I think that Patrick Mahomes is going to turn around and light you up for 45 points.
Yeah, I would say force feed it to Davante. They'll eventually start doubling him. If they don't, feed it to Darren Waller too. I mean, he's been underperforming as a fantasy player, and just in general, I know they want to get it to him, but they just can't. It's like they know that Derek Carr loves going to him, so I actually like the Raiders in this one. I'm taking the Raiders. Yeah, because if they're serious about being a contender, this is a game they have to win.
Yeah, they're not serious about being a contender, which is why they will lose to the Kansas City Chiefs.
I'm usually alone in these, so it's all good. Where are you going, Kenny?
You should have to suffer some type of punishment for these crazy choices.
But I'm right. I mean, I was the only one who chose the Dolphins, and
rest on your laurels, young.
Yeah, you've been right.
King.
Like, I don't even want to have to start keeping notes to show you how, you're using like confirmation bias or some shit. That's not even confirmation bias. It's another term where you're just using the good times. You're thinking of only the good times. You're wrong a lot of the time still.
Of course I'm wrong, but when it comes to choosing upsets, I feel like I'm.
If you pick the upset every time, you're gonna hit on a couple of them.
Exactly.
I don't choose it all the time though. Like
well,
you choose the Bengals
more frequently than us.
Yeah, but this is way. Like, I mean, the Bengals I don't even think that's a crazy upset. I think this is a crazy upset, but it's only in the sense it's kind of not because it's a division game. So would I be surprised if the Raiders win? Based on skill, yes, but based on division games there have been times where the Bears beat the Packers. It's happened.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go Kansas City.
I feel like it's been a while since we saw Bears.
Yeah, of course. That's why.
We'll figure out the stakes for one of these little underdog upsets that Lucas likes to pull.
Yeah.
We'll discuss offline. A game with no contenders, the Patriots and the Lions. The Patriots resulted to a third-string quarterback last week who looked not good. And that brings us to the Patriots and the Lions. Do you guys think Bill Belichick can shut out Jared Goff again like what he did in the Super Bowl? I personally don't. I think the Lions have a better football team than the Patriots do at this point in the season. I'm going to pick the Lions to win this game.
Yeah, I actually think we're going to get our feel-good Lions win, and they're going to get to do it to the Patriots, but, a hollow Patriots, not the Patriots they would like to do it to. But, yeah, Patriots just, aren't doing well. I wonder how many years Belichick's going to have left in him of this shit.
More or less than J.J. Watt.
It's very strange to watch the Patriots and know that they don't really have a great chance of winning. But I like the Lions. I think this is a very winnable game for them, and I'm excited to see if Jared Goff can keep it up. I mean, he's putting up crazy numbers. Crazy.
Yeah, hopefully Amon-Ra St. Brown comes back in this game too. One of the most exciting young receivers in all of football. The Patriots nearly beat the Packers last week, but they fell short in an overtime loss on a game-winning field goal. Yeah, so the Pats nearly eked one out against the Packers, who we're going to be talking about for this next game. Giants-Packers, probably the worst 3-1 matchup you could have imagined at this point in the schedule. No offense to the Giants. Obviously, they are 3-1. They've had a weak schedule. The Packers are 3-1 despite looking like shit. Who do you have, Lucas?
I'm not going to not choose the Giants.
Go.
Yeah.
This
is an absurd pick. No one else should do this. Don't take the money line. I'm crazy. I'm a homer. That's fine. I'll admit it. I think there's a legitimate chance that the Giants can win. And I'll tell you why. Our defense has kept us in games, Even against this atrocious Bears team, the defense was a big reason why we were, still in the game. It's going to be difficult if DJ doesn't play. He's day-to-day with an ankle injury. Tyrod Taylor has a concussion, so he's probably not going to play. I mean, I don't know. Nowadays, you have a concussion, they're like, hey, what's up? You got a pulse? Okay, he's playing. But it's going to be tough.
You're having a hard time
receiving core is
explaining
decimated, but these are the types of wins that the Giants are eking out this year because we're coached really well. So we're going to win by field goal, and I'm fucking insane, but I love the Giants.
The Packers are going to win this game. The Giants are not a good football team. I was going to say they're a bad football team, but I think there's other teams that can take that title. So in the hierarchy, they're just not a good football team at this point. And I think that the Packers are an okay football team, and they're going to have their probably best game of the season this week.
I concur. Full stop. No.
Hey, while we're on the subject, fantasy-wise, how do you guys feel about Romeo Doubs? Is he going to be their wide receiver one? Do you like Lazard more?
Lazard is definitely the wideout one. Aaron Rodgers really likes him. I think Romeo Doubs is wideout 2, probably a wideout 3 flex if you're grading that out, wideout 2 on the Packers in terms of target share. I don't think it's anything super interesting. Just keep your eye on it, see as it progresses over the season. For right now, he's a flex play.
I agree. I'm not really too high on them unless Aaron Rodgers returns to MVP form.
How about the running backs in this little timeshare?
Aaron Jones definitely is an RB1 still. A.J. Dillon looks fine, but again, he's a low-tier flex play right now until he starts producing touchdowns. He does get touches, but he just really hasn't broken open a game yet. I think once he does that, he's in the RB2 category.
Fair.
We're coming in hot with these fantasy takes. I feel like Eric Carabell right now. He does fantasy for ESPN, but that's okay. Regardless,
watch out, he's coming for your job, bro.
Hell yeah! No, I think the Packers are definitely a better football team than the Giants, despite them both looking like they don't really want to win football games. I know you were saying that the Giants' defense keeps them in games, but it's really the offense that keeps them in games. You know, if their offense was better, yeah. If the Giants' offense was better, I think they'd probably be undefeated right now. Watching that game against the Cowboys in the first half, your guys' defense looked really good. You were moving the ball well, and then the second half came, and Micah Parsons decided, fuck you, as did Randy Gregory, and your entire game plan
and
fell
DeMarcus
apart.
Lawrence and every single pass rusher.
DeMarcus Lawrence. Randy Gregory's on the Broncos now, but yes,
he
DeMarcus
got hurt
Lawrence.
this last game.
Yeah, so sexy to watch a big muscular man get hurt.
With all those goosebumps.
I don't like what I'm doing here with this. Low key, we're all in the closet. All right, Cowboys Rams. Two teams that aren't in the closet. The Cowboys, I think, are the better team in this matchup right now. The Rams looked bad Monday night.
Yeah, it worries me that I'm starting to think like, well, okay, I could probably pick the Cowboys in these games, and the Cowboys will be, it's going to be the Cowboys, and I'm going to pick the Cowboys hesitantly for this one. I mean, it's just got to go play another game. That's all it boils down to, and we're going to see.
Lucas, are you going to ride your Super Bowl favorite from last year?
I think the Rams come in with a huge chip on their shoulder because they played terrible tonight. Division rival or not, they look so bad that they're just going to come out and look. I think it's a toss-up. It's a pretty even matchup. We consider.
They're going to have a chip on their shoulder. They're going to come out and toss up.
They're going to come out and flip a coin.
Well, okay. I mean, no, like the matchup itself is a toss-up because they're somewhat evenly matched teams. I see the Rams winning it.
Yeah, I mean, everything in this, like you said all you needed to say when you're saying the Rams, the defending Super Bowl champions, are going up against a team with a backup quarterback, and you're saying they're evenly matched. Like, that tells you everything you need to know.
I mean, based on how they're playing now, yeah.
One side note on the Rams, and specific to what happened on Monday, the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan have Sean McVay's number. They just do. They beat the living shit out of the Rams every single season. It's how they made the playoffs last year. It's how they almost went to the Super Bowl, if not for a missed pick. So that is one disclaimer. Personally, I do think the Cowboys are a better football team right now and more talented across the board. I think the Cowboys are going to win this game. I will ride Cooper's Big D. More closeted stuff into a victory for the Cowboys.
That redhead love, baby.
Why do you think the Rams are going to win? I'm just very curious.
I think the Rams are going to come out and be like, look, dude, we need to get over this fucking Super Bowl hangover. We've played like shit. It doesn't matter. Like, we need to be explosive again. Because they still can be. They still have basically the same team that took them to the Super Bowl, with the exception of, they lost Von Miller, gained Bobby Wagner. I would say it's slightly downgrade there, but offensively, basically the same team without OBJ. So if they can start playing the way they were playing last season,
yeah, I mean,
I think that they can win.
And if the Cowboys start playing the way they played in like 1993, they're going to win the Super Bowl.
Damn, Troy Aikman coming back. Hey, concussions are back, baby.
No, I definitely think one of those two teams has a more likely chance of regaining Super Bowl form. I'll let you two figure out which one I'm talking about. A team that definitely does not have a Super Bowl form, my beloved Arizona Cardinals. who are not going to make the Super Bowl, but they do have a chance to knock the Eagles off of the undefeated podium, which they currently occupy by themselves. Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts, who's more athletic?
Ooh, that's so tough.
Probably Kyler.
I want to say Kyler, but I just think back to that one juke that Jalen Hurts had last season where he stopped on a dime and just shattered someone's ankles. And I know you can't base their athleticism off of one play. I'm going to give a slight edge to Kyler because I think he holds the record for longest 2-point conversion of all time.
Who are you giving an edge in this game towards?
In this game, that's a different story. I like the Eagles more as a complete team, better defense, offensively. I'd say weapons-wise are pretty evenly matched, but the Eagles have just been able to do more with their offense. So I'll give the edge to the Eagles on this one. Although I'd love to see the Cardinals win. I mean, I think I like seeing the Cardinals win more than Gabe does.
Yeah, I'd root for the Cardinals. I would root for the Cardinals in this one. I think the Eagles are going to win. The Cardinals still look like a pretty bad football team. They played, another even worse football team. Again, the worst QBR through 4 games in the history of football since they started measuring it. So I think the Eagles are going to remain undefeated.
Unfortunately.
This is one of those ones where I would be surprised if we're sitting here. I'll be happy, but I will be surprised if the Cardinals win.
If the Cardinals win, they'll go to 3-2 on the season. And then it's only one more game until DeAndre Hopkins comes back.
Do they take control of the division if they win?
Control is a very loose term with a division full of 2-2 teams tied currently. They wouldn't because they lost to the Rams in week 3. So depending on how the Rams go, right? If the Rams end up dropping in week 5, then the Cardinals would be up. But because they did lose that game to the Rams last week, they currently are, I don't know if they're lowest on the tier in the NFC West, but I think they might be because of in-division games. Regardless, the Cardinals have a chance to go to 3-2. The Eagles have a chance to go to 5-0. The Eagles are a better football team. The Cardinals are my favorite football team. J.J. Watt has a heart rhythm issue. I'm going to pick the Eagles. I'm very sorry.
I thought you were going to pick the Cards.
No, the Eagles are a much better football team than we are.
Yeah, if you pick the Panthers to be the Cardinals last week, you have to pick the Eagles to beat them.
Right. Yeah, not this guy. Missed me with that one, which I did call last week incorrectly. So
I was just saying, based on the way he was talking, that isn't throwing a little misdirection.
Yeah, a little anticipation for me picking against the Cardinals, I do every week.
At this point, do you think the Cardinals are going to be considerably better when DeAndre comes back?
I no matter what happens with the Arizona Cardinals, their offense is better with DeAndre Hopkins because he's one of the 3 best receivers in football. Full stop. Take Cooper Kupp away from the Los Angeles Rams. They're not the same team, right?
Yeah.
Take Deebo Samuel away from the 49ers. They're not the same team. Take A.J. Brown away from the Eagles. We saw what they were last year. They're a fine playoff team, but they're not undefeated. Take away Tyreek Hill from Tua Tagovailoa. They're not the same team. Take away Tyreek Hill from Patrick Mahomes, and apparently it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
We don't have that level of quarterback play in Arizona. We don't. DeAndre Hopkins is pivotal and crucial to allowing Kyler Murray to play backyard football and scramble around the pocket and make something happen because he always knows where the football is. That being said, do I think it makes the Cardinals a good team in the NFC? That's the more interesting question. I think it makes them an average team in the NFC. I don't think it makes them good. I think it makes them playoff caliber because the NFC is weak. And we're seeing that with the Saints looking bad. The Vikings looked bad. Both of them played in London this last week. There's no real bona fide team. The fact that the NFC East has, 3 teams at 3-1 right now?
2 teams
well,
at
2 teams at 3-1.
1 team undefeated.
4-0. And then whatever happened to the Commanders at 1-3. But the NFC East right now has a majority of the playoff teams with a lack of talent.
That's true.
Yeah.
You tell me. I do think the Cardinals, when DeAndre Hopkins get back, goes to playoff caliber in the NFC. I don't think they're good.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the wild card, even though it's super early for that, who do you really have as like a bona fide wild card team besides like the second place team in the NFC West, which might end up being the Cardinals.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, it is too. I mean, 4 games is too early for that kind of shit. We need like 7, 8 games to be able to like map it out. There's too many. All the records are too close.
Like right now, it's Eagles, 49ers, Bucks, Packers, right? Those are division leaders that we have in the NFC. That's 4 out of your 8 playoff teams right there. How the hell does the rest of it shake up? No idea, right? There are too many teams that are 2-2, too many teams that are 3-1. Who knows? All I know is that football is going to be on next week, as will we, bringing you another thrilling episode of Division Rivals. Thank you, guys.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Later, guys.